This video is all about duplicating your game objects. Now this is a very simple concept. Say you have a game object and you need another copy of it. You can handle that through duplication. Now inside my scene I happen to have a sphere just sitting here from a previous example, and let's say for some reason I decided I need another sphere. I can do this in a couple of ways. I can hit Control D and that will create a duplicate. If we take a look, there's a second sphere listed here in my hierarchy view. And if I move my sphere, you can see we now have two of them. Very, very easy. Now, personally, I think I only use the Control D hotkey, but if for some reason maybe your hand is tied up sipping on a cup of coffee, you can go under Edit and jump down to Duplicate and pick that out of the menu. Now, there are a couple of things to keep in mind with duplication. One of them you just saw incidentally. If I duplicate this sphere again, because I deleted the first duplicate, you'll notice that I have two spheres, and they are both named sphere. You don't automatically get an incremented name such as Sphere 1 or Sphere 2 or anything like that. In the hierarchy view, Unity has no problem with multiple objects having the same name. If that's a problem for you, make sure that you take the time to rename your new duplicate. So we can select this and call this Sphere 2, and now we have a way to differentiate one from the other here inside our hierarchy view. And that can be really important and easy to overlook because a lot of applications that have duplication like this will automatically change the name. In fact, Unity will if you do the same thing in your project view. So even though I'm trying to stay focused specifically on GameObjects, if I jump over here into my project view and just at random pick on one of these materials and hit Control D, it will still duplicate, but notice it increments the name so that we get, in this case, Camp Mat 1.
Right. If you remember in a previous video when we opened up Window Explorer to show you the file structure that Unity maintains inside of the project that you created, there will be a bunch of folders and files inside of those folders that are represented by things in the project. Now, the Microsoft operating system underlying will not allow more than one file with the same name in that folder. So when you're duplicating, it actually has to increment so you can actually have two of the same things in the same folder without having the same file name.
Right. So what we're going to do is just delete this duplicate out. So just tap delete and kill that out. Now back over here to our game objects, a couple more things to keep in mind. And that is having to do with parenting when duplicating. So here you can see we have our camp, and as a part of this camp I have a couple of benches. I have bench 1 and bench 2. But let's say I wanted another bench. So I'll grab bench 1. I'll hit Control D. Now again, we get a new bench that is also named bench 1. So I'm going to immediately rename this to bench 3 before I do anything else, and I can move it. But the important thing here is that this bench was a child of the camp game object, and it still is a child of it. So as you duplicate objects, if they have a parent, the duplicate will maintain that parent. It won't just be a completely fresh object with no parent. Conversely, if you take a parent object and duplicate it, so if we take this entire camp, which I'll just collapse up, and I hit Control D, I can duplicate the entire parent object, and all of its children and all of its children's children will automatically come along for the ride. So I could set up another camp over here, right in the middle of our path, and of course it looks like we'd want to move that up a little bit. Maybe spin it around. And there we go. So we can easily take an object that has its own hierarchy, and if we duplicate that, the entire hierarchy will come along for the ride. Now I'll go ahead and delete that right back out because we don't really need to keep that. But I wanted to get that across because there are some instances in other programs where if you duplicate objects that are parented, sometimes they don't always maintain their parenting. Here in Unity they do, and you need to keep that in mind. But that is going to wrap things up for this video. Thanks a lot.